Alright, today we are looking at 1 Nephi 5, 10 through 14, and verse 22. And after they had given thanks unto God, the God of Israel, my father Lehi took the records which were engraven upon the plates of brass, and he did search them from the beginning. And he beheld that they did contain the 5 books of Moses, which gave an account of the creation of the world, and also of Adam and Eve, who were our first parents, and also a record of the Jews from the beginning, even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah king of Judah, and also the prophecies of the holy prophets from the beginning, even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, and also many prophecies which have been spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah. And it came to pass that my father Lehi also found upon the plates of brass a genealogy of his fathers, wherefore he knew that he was a descendant of Joseph, yea, even that Joseph, who was the son of Jacob, who was sold into Egypt, and who was preserved by the hand of the Lord, that he might preserve his father Jacob and all his household from perishing with famine. Wherefore it was wisdom in the Lord that we should carry them with us, and we journeyed in the wilderness towards the land of promise. So the question that we're going to be diving into today is, could these brass plates exist? So I watched these guys.
These guys have to carry around 500 pounds of bread.
How heavy would an Old Testament written on plates of brass be?
Probably pretty heavy.
I mean, it's just the Pentateuch, I grant you, but I mean, that's a lot of brass. Yeah.
Right.
Somebody did the math, and the weight of the metal would actually, the bottom plate would actually crush and deform.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No surprises here.
So those guys are the worst. I suffered through an hour and a half of listening to them to try to find something that I could dive deep into, and a question that I could have from this chapter that I might be able to answer. That's the best I could come up with. The rest of the hour and a half is just them sarcastically reading the Book of Mormon and laughing. They have no sources. They have no evidence, no data to back up anything other than they sarcastically read it and then laugh at each other. So there's not a lot of substance there for me to go off of, but I did pull this out, that they claim that it's too heavy, that these brass plates would have been crushed. There's no way they could have carried them. There were 500 pounds. Again, no sources to back up this information, no research, just them throwing out ideas. So, but let's look at it, right? Let's actually dive deep into it. It's a good question. If they had some more data, it would have been a better question. But what was on the plates? So, interestingly enough, it's amazing that Joseph Smith, a 25-year-old boy 100 miles from the nearest Jewish settlement, could correctly identify the books in the Tanakh, because he did, without saying Tanakh. He said the 5 books, the Law of Moses, which is the Torah, which is the T part of the Tanakh. The N part of the Tanakh is the Book of the Prophets, which is 8 books, and the Ketuvim, which is 11 books, which is the ending part, the CH part of the Tanakh. It stands for these 3 things: the law, the prophets, and the writings. Right here you can see, and he beheld that they did contain the 5 books of Moses, which is the Torah, which gave an account of the creation of the world, also of Adam and Eve, who were our first parents, and also a record of the Jews from the beginning, which is the prophets, even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, and also the prophecies of the holy prophets. Sorry, that's the prophets. The writings is the Ketuvim. So he's got the 3 books that make up the Tanakh. He also has a genealogy of the descendants of Joseph and a record of the Josephites. So he's got a lot of stuff here. But we kind of have a pretty good idea of what he's got. So we know he's got the Torah, which is nearly 80,000 words. The Nevim, which is 141,000 words. The Kesuvim, which is 83,000 words. And then we're going to add a few more for the book of Joseph and the family genealogy and give us a nice round number of 325,000, conservatively, words that need to fit on these brass plates. So let's look at other examples of plates so we can look at sizes and weights. This is a huge collection of plates that was found in India. It had 85 copper plates. Were discovered in 2010 during the renovation of a temple. One of the plates was lost. It originally contained 86. They're held together by a copper ring. These are the copper scrolls that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. What I pulled from that is they were 1 millimeter thick. So we can kind of get a thickness from these copper scrolls that date to the same time period in the same place. Probably similar material. The gold tablets here that were found in Assyria, they had 21 lines, 87 words. The line height was between 1 and 4 millimeters. Character size and density of the silver Katif Hinnom scrolls. We have between 1.7 millimeters and 5 millimeters was the height of this text, was the size of the text. So now let's look at, we have the size of the text, we have the word count, let's look at the letter count. Taking all these books, the letter count would have been 1.1 million. We're adding more for the book of Joseph. This is in the Hebrew language without vowels. So 1.1 million Hebrew letters, 1.2 million if we add in the book of Joseph and a genealogy of Joseph. So what do we need? We have 1.2 million letters between 1 and 3 millimeters tall, if it's the same as the other contemporary sources that we found. And if we said that they were 1 to 2 millimeters wide each letter, the letters would have taken up 2.25 square millimeters each, for a total of 2.7 million square millimeters. Adding an additional 10% for blank space, we would need 2.95 million square millimeters of brass plate surface area. So if we had that equals 2.9 square meters of surface on the plates at 1 millimeter thick compared to the copper scrolls. There's these weight calculators you can find online. They were saying that this would weigh 500 pounds. Well, according to my calculations, and you can see all my numbers here, it would weigh, if it was brass, it would weigh around 55.7 pounds. If it was bronze, it would weigh just under 50 pounds. So that in itself is feasible to be able to carry a 50-pound weight. 50-pound weight is the same as a sack of potatoes. So if they're going in, getting these brass plates, taking them out of the city on the run, it's like they're carrying a sack of potatoes. However, the more you think about it, I would imagine that these books are all broken up into separate books. We have the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Kesuvim, and the Josephite records. Now, breaking them down by percentage of content, the Torah would only be 8 pounds, the weight of a gallon of milk. The Nevi'im would be 14 pounds, like a bowling ball. The Kesuvim would be 9 pounds, like a watermelon. And the Josephite records would be 16 pounds, like a gallon of paint. There was 4 brothers. They had 4 records and a sword, plus Zoram. Everybody could have carried one thing, and it would have been no issue whatsoever.